What up, my fellow Survivor lovers? Welcome to Survivor Historian, part of the Challenge Historian podcast feed. I am your host and born-again Survivor superfan, Jacob Hollaball, and as will be the case each and every week throughout Survivor 45, I have the honor yet again of being joined by a true Survivor historian. You know and love him from co-hosting the Challenge Fandom podcast, the one and only Tony Lance. Tony, how are you doing today, my friend?
The horrors persist, but so do I. So that is all that matters.
Wow. Okay. That ominous to say the least. We're here on a Saturday. We're really finding a group. We did a Monday, we did a Thursday. Now we're doing a Saturday. So we said it could be any day of the week, people. Okay. And
we're living up to it.
It could be any day. It could be any day. If you're a betting person, maybe bet on Friday or Sunday next week. Maybe we just keep mixing it up till we've hit every single one. But we are here, of course, to talk about Survivor 45. What is becoming at least 3 episodes in. The consensus on Twitter so far has been that this is starting out as the best of the modern seasons. We can maybe talk about that at the end of this podcast if we feel similar, but I will say this, I was a little surprised at how unequivocally there's a lot of people, including cast members from other seasons of 41 through 4 who are like, this season rules, this is the best season. So we'll cover that. We're going to cover everything episode 3. Before we do, a couple quick programming reminders. Obviously, on the challenge side for this feed, USA 2, the penultimate episode was this past Thursday. It was an emotional one, to say the least. That recap is up and in the feed, so go check that if you haven't. And we'll obviously have the finale recap up next Thursday night, immediately after the episode, as well as next week, Survivor 39 preview podcast. Don't know exactly what day it's going to be released, but hopefully Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometime early in the week, so that you have at least a full week to digest that, watch the finale of USA 2, and then head into season 39. And then, of course, we will be back, me and Tony, next week again, any day, someday after Wednesday. It will not be before Wednesday, is the pretty much only guarantee. Sometime after episode 4, we will be back with continued Survivor coverage. Tony, what's going on Challenge Fandom this week and weekend and next week?
As you've mentioned, we're kind of like in a barrage of different things that are all happening at exactly the same time. So we've done I believe we've done our 39 breakdown. We've done our recap. They are just getting ready to go out. And then then obviously we're back for the finale. And then we've got a whole 6 days off between seasons before we start season 39.
I mean, I can't complain that, one season ends and the next one starts the following week. I can and will continue to complain that we're moved back to Wednesdays, and now we are in direct competition with Survivor. But, Jersey Shore going strong a decade later. Respect Jersdays, I guess. MTV, the dying network that it is, clearly has way too much respect for Jersdays to ever move the challenge. They could respect Jersdays and just I'll watch the challenge on Friday night. I don't do much. Most of your fans are in your 30s now. We stay in our homes and stuff. We don't care. We'll watch on Friday. We'll watch on Tuesday. We just like to be able to watch, the 2 most popular reality competition shows not air at the same time, the same day of the week. Could it just be not that? That's all we're asking for. So we will be covering both of those. Yeah, on both pods here. And the other exciting thing to say for the Survivor Historian part of this feed is at some point in the next few weeks, we will have my good friend Paige joining us for a recap or 2 as well. So far, because the season is good enough, and hopefully we have enough to talk about, we're going to bring her in as well. So she will hopefully be popping in some point throughout this season. That's what we got coming up in the future. But as for the immediate future right now, Survivor 45, episode 3 agenda for the pod today, same as it was last week, same as it'll likely be for the entire season. We're going to go through the episode kind of segment by segment. Anything worth talking about, we will. Then we'll hit some awards, predictions, and power rankings at the end to wrap it up. Tony, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's dive in then. A pretty wild episode, to say the least. So a lot to get to. Here we go. So we kick things off where the episode kicks off. Lulu, night 5. They have just eliminated Brandon over Emily, and everyone's coming back. Everyone's kumbaya, and mostly Emily, who is, has rebuilt these bridges, They've decided to keep her versus Brandon in a very one-on-one, mano-a-mano. Who are they going to get rid of here? The one it's kind of the weak link or the one they don't like. She's around. She's happy. Everyone's having a good time until it gets super awkward because Emily picked up on something that I have to say was very smart and intuitive because I, as the viewer, didn't pick up in the moment at the end of last episode that she would get this tell. But she says, hey, Jeff only read 2 votes. If there was 4 of us voting, he would have had to read the 3rd vote to say 2 votes sends you home. So that means there wasn't 2, 3, or 4 votes. There was only 3. So who didn't vote? And then she directly looks at Sabiyah and asks, Sabiyah, did you vote? And it gets awkward and Sabiyah lies. Do you agree with Sabiyah lying in this instance? It's
hard
because it was obvious. It was obviously a lie.
Yeah. And like, if you lie now, how do you roll it back later when you're like, you know what, actually, just so you know, before when I told you that one thing, it was actually a different thing. Because then the trust is already gone. I liked Kaleb's line about like, she immediately picks a fight with the one person she wasn't supposed to pick a fight with. And I mean, like, not a total fight, but you could tell that Emily was just working through all the machinations of how it was possible. And she just happened to land on it out loud.
Yeah. Because it's not she kind of says like, Sabiyah, did you vote? Like an actual, I don't know how you differentiate. I was about to say like not questioning her, but she's asking a question, but not in the way like after the first in the first episode where she's like questioning stuff in kind of like an aggressive manner or an aggressor manner where it's like there's something behind this where there's some sort of adversarial something behind this. This was an actual just like, hey, did you guys notice, kind of thing? And like, was it you? And just totally isn't aware of the fact that like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing this. I should ask the one person who I'm actually trusting in it to maybe go tell him like, did you notice this? And like, what the hell, but not do it out loud. I agree. I know it's really hard to not lie in the moment. You get caught in the moment. It's, late at night of night 5, you're dying at this point. The starvation is like real at this point for them who is not, although they just got, no, they haven't had fruit yet. They're about to have some fruit. So I get it, but it is weird then when she does walk it back later in the episode. And I always wonder, would I be cool on the beach if someone lied to me and then like a day or 2 later, they like told me that they lied and were like, hey, you caught me in the moment and I like, we're playing this game. Like I didn't know what to do. It wasn't like, cause I wanted to lie to you. It's cause in the moment I was like, I don't know if what I'm supposed to say. Everyone's standing here. So I did lie, but like, I'm coming clean now. Cause I've thought through it now that it wasn't in the moment. And I've decided I should give you all of the information I have and be honest with you. I would like, that seems like something that from the outside, you'd be like, yeah, I'd be okay with that. Like, that makes sense. That makes sense. If you were in their position, you would maybe do something similar, but I think in the end, I would just be like, no, you lied. And obviously,
she could have just said that Brandon lost his vote.
Yeah.
He's not there to defend it. And it's plausible because he had just previously lost his vote. So it could have been that he lost it for 2 tribals, not the one that he said.
I wonder if she or Kaleb or Sean would have been the one like away from Emily would have been like, hey, she's going to like know someone didn't vote. What should we say? If they would have decided, if they had the moment to actually think and decide, how should we lie? How should we get out? If they would have went with Brandon had something, but that's a much bigger lie that then is harder to come clean about later if you eventually want to. So we will actually come back to this moment because Emily, this moment does matter a lot. And there is a reason they show it to us other than it being awkward and interesting, but there's very much a reason later in the episode, this might have been the moment that sealed Sabiyah's fate ultimately, because it's the one thing that kind of points Emily to who she should ultimately trust or be the most trusting in on her tribe. But we'll get to that later. We head to Belo. They're day 6 at Belo. And as we saw in the next week last week, we actually saw the entirety of it, which was kind of thankful part in the end. But Jake has a seizure, I guess. Do we call that a seizure?
Looked like one, but nobody treated it as if it was one.
Medical had to have looked at him, and they had to show us,
but
right?
you would think that they would have said, like, this is what happened, because when Jake's talking about it, he's like, I don't even remember falling down.
Yeah, Yeah,
and that was it.
they just didn't show him talking to medical, but obviously
Yeah.
if a dude kind of has a seizure / passes out almost into the fire, they're much safer than that. They're gonna send someone in. Yeah, it was very, I mean, very scary, certainly,
Yeah.
and kind of strange the reaction to it, and then it was just like, I
Never
guess I'm
mind.
fine. And like, I guess that happens. Yeah, you inhale a bunch of smoke, that can happen, but I guess there's a tipping point where it can just cause a little momentary glitch in the brain, more or less, and then you're totally fine to continue starving on an island and competing in a game show. So yeah, that was scary, certainly. But
Yeah.
he afterwards, it almost in a weird way endears him to Kendra, who is the one who witnesses it, and then kind of hangs out with him a little after to make sure he's
Okay.
coherent and a person and okay. And they become friends. And Kendra decides that, you know what, maybe it doesn't need to be guys versus girls. Maybe I misread the guys of this. Maybe it is just Bruce and it's not
Yeah.
the others. And maybe lawyers aren't all that bad or all that scary because he just almost died in front of me. So, and they're friends now. And she eventually later, tells the girls, like, I like Jake. What do you think about this new pairing that we've got?
It's very strange, because it really did come out of left field, because all that we've seen of Kendra is, I don't trust Jake. Jake is the one that needs to go. And then as soon as she has that conversation with him, it's almost like she had not spoken to him up until that point. And then when she did, she was like, "Oh, you're not scary. I can work with you." But my favorite was when she said, like, initially we were worried about the boys, and then Jake was just like, "Everyone's my boy, like you're my boy." And then it sort of completely diffused the situation, where she realized that it was just a group of people on the island.
Yeah, I definitely think this was one of moments that happens repeatedly on the show, certainly
Yeah.
by fans, but the people that play it too, is there's going to be some stereotyping that goes on. That's kind of part of the beauty of the game, is getting to like watch in real time that like happen, but then get taken down or turned on
Yeah.
its head or anything. And I think she potentially, what we know about her personality, I could see her being like the lawyer bro from like Boston, and like in her head being like, that's not, me and him aren't friends. And
Yeah.
so, and then if him and Bruce are talking, like, okay, like those are the boys doing the boys things and being against it. And then she has the first longer conversation with him and is like, oh, maybe he isn't the person I just decided in my head that he was, because I heard lawyer in the Boston accent, was like, nah, I'm good. And now we're friends. And also, maybe we shouldn't 2 days in just make it as simple as, all right, guys versus girls. That's what we're all going with. That's what we're sticking to the whole way through. It doesn't, it's worked a time or two, but it's usually not going to be that simple and straightforward of just on day one. All the girls, all right, we all like each other. Great. Final three, because she is the
Yeah.
one that did
It's
say
true.
on day two, final three to the girls. But now where's Jake fit her final three? I don't know. We'll find
Well,
out. We
and the
had to
thing
Reba.
too,
Oh,
well,
go ahead.
he did also say that the lack of communication was as much on him as it was on her, and I don't think she was anticipating that either. Um, and I think that both of them just had completely crossed wires in relation to their own dynamic.
Yeah, I don't think they had been alone together
No.
either to have, because it's the other thing, like, you can get along with someone fine, but like you're only really gonna talk game unless it's, like when we get to Reba here, like a 4-person thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're pretty much only like talking the game when you get into one-on-one scenarios. And if they've constantly, 5 days in, not found themselves in a one-on-one scenario with the two of them, or made the effort to be like, I haven't talked one-on-one with this person, I should like find a way to do that. It's not as big of an offense as it might seem at first glance, of like, wow, you just haven't talked to her, you haven't talked to him the whole time, what have you guys been doing for 5 days of sitting on a beach? It's like, well, we've interacted plenty, just not individually where we're
Yeah.
comfortable talking about our game. We had to Reba their day 6, and I maybe spoke too soon last episode in pumping up my guy Drew, because Drew last week looked like someone who had this game on lock quickly, who just socially, strategically, everything was going Drew's way, and he had a firm grip on the wheel. And this episode, Drew does not have a firm grip on the steering wheel, nor does his buddy Austin. They get caught digging by their own alliance members who they're in an alliance with, but they have chosen not to tell yet about the half, the hidden immunity idol that only the boys' half of the alliance gets to know about for now. And they get caught red-handed. They do a horrible job. I will start there. They're horrible job at watching or lookout. And also, there's two of you. One's digging, and the other is going to be the lookout. But there's like 6 different ways you could be approached from. Like you're in the middle of the woods, and the path goes both ways. And I think there's a second path very close by. It's like, what's one lookout going to do, guys? Like there's 4 other people, and there's 5 ways they could approach from. What do you think's about to happen? And as it turns out, Drew's down one end of the path, and here comes Dee, and I'm now only referring to her as Mama Judy, as Dee does, even though her name isn't Judy, but I'm guessing, I think I'm hearing Dee correctly. Dee calls her Mama Judy.
I thought it was Julie, but I just assumed that it was Julie because her name's Julie, so I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an accent or I kept, the second time she said it, I was like, wait, I think she's saying Mama Judy. I don't know. Maybe this is the stupidest thing I've ever said. Either way, the one that we predicted was going to take the mother approach has also been thrust upon her by Dee and Drew, amongst others potentially, but at least those two. But Julie and Dee catch them. And how silly do you feel that they looked in this moment? Because I think they looked really silly.
They looked very silly. I like that Austin said on Twitter, "Don't get your over 6-foot ally to be inconspicuous, and don't get me to stand watch." They, my favorite was Drew immediately knew that he did the wrong thing. They approached him, he got up and walked the other way.
Yeah.
And then he was like,
they couldn't have handled this worse.
Yeah.
You walk, they speak to you. It's not that they came in, like they saw you and you're just like, oh, no one's saying, I'm just awkwardly going to walk away, and it's awkward, whatever. They spoke to you. They were like, what are you doing? And your response was, bye. I'm going to not say anything, and I'm going to walk away from you. The people that I'm working with who just caught me doing something suspicious, just going to walk away. And then when they get together, they lie about it and they claim, we saw Sifu digging over here, and so once he left, we were like, we should dig there too. And in that moment, Drew's face is very clearly the face of someone who is lying to people and clearly is like not second guessing it. He's well beyond second guessing. He knows as the words come out of his or Austin's mouth, this is a bad idea. Why are we doing this? These are the people that are going to vote us out because of this bullshit. What has happened? Like, his whole life goes out of his body as that's happening. You're like, just start telling the truth, dude, because you're not going to pull this off.
The only thing that I will give him props for is when he started saying that it was because they saw Sifu, which of course, like they had kind of sowed that seed earlier on. But when Austin started to walk up to him, he immediately was like, hey, so I'm just telling them about how Sifu was looking here, and that's why we were. So that Austin doesn't quickly come up and say, so Jay was looking here to try to find an idol.
Yeah.
So we decided to look here.
He does try to cover it, and Austin doesn't really react at all to that. And I think everyone in that group knows that lies are being told and it's like, okay, we'll maybe circle back, which they eventually do. And we'll talk about in a little bit, but like, we're going to circle back to this because clearly whatever the hell is happening right here is not the full story. It might not be a correct story or full story, but it's one of them. We don't have the proper book and all of the pages in front of us at this moment. All right, then we head to the reward challenge. We get to the reward challenge, first of the season, very exciting. And from kind of how early in the episode it is, we can pretty much assume that before he even says it's going to be a reward challenge, which I like and appreciate, again, from the old school where it was, very almost all of the time that there'd be a reward and immunity back to back. So I like it. Did you have any thoughts on the game itself before we talk about what happened?
I was immediately brought back to Heather having her struggle on 41 when Danny kind of had that pep talk and Danny became beloved by everyone in that moment. I really like that what they seem to be doing is pulling pieces from different challenges and putting them together to make a new challenge rather than just being like, oh, this is the one where you do X, Y, and Z. It's pulled from like 2 or 3 different challenges, which is nice because you can't just know it, have practiced it, and run through it.
Yeah, for sure. I Yeah, it's interesting now that I'm on my like fifth or sixth straight season of watching live, of like finally hitting that point where you kind of remember how similar that, all a lot of these are, or how much they reuse little pieces of them. But I do
Yeah.
appreciate that, like you said, they mix up which pieces they are maybe reusing. And the catching the ball thing at the start is, I get very nervous on that little part. No one
Yeah.
really took a bad fall on this one or anything, but those just wire, they're rope or whatever. They're not wire, but rope wires that they put across the ground to make the little obstacle to run through. Um, I'm surprised every time that someone doesn't fall and, really crack their head.
I didn't notice the ones that were like half height right away until a couple people went through. And then I became like even more anxious because at first I thought it was just like run through, make sure that you get your feet in all the different holes and then catch it. And I did not see the two that went across at the halfway, like at half height. But then as soon as I think it was Kaleb who like did this super quick down and up again. Like, why did he do that? And then they did another angle. I was like, oh, because he had to.
Yeah, and I think that actually helps to make sure that people go slow enough not
Yeah.
to completely, because if you get going and then trip on one, take a bad fall.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kaleb dominates,
Sure.
absolutely shines. He's both the first person to catch the ball and does it on the first try with ease. He is then also the person who shoots the ball for his team to raise the 3 spikes, and he is the person to, I thought that Jeff, when he explained, said that 2 people, but I think it was up to 2 people are
Yeah.
allowed to throw the rings. But if one, wants to do all of them, they can. And Kaleb doesn't just want to do all of them, he does do all of them, because he turns out he's very good at it. And so he dominates, and Lulu gets their first ever win, which is very exciting and is
Fantastic.
very celebrated. However, it is only a reward win, not an immunity win, which, comes around later. But fruit reward, what are your thoughts on the fruit reward? Is that for the first food reward of the season, if you're on the camp, is that one of your top choices? Is that one you're excited about, or are you maybe a
I
little
would.
bummed?
No, I would be totally jazzed about the fruit. Like the sugar and like how sweet that is after not having anything. And even stuff like bananas. And I think they're like bananas and peaches and grapes and stuff like that. Like I would be totally on board for this a lot more than like I love coffee. I will have multiple cups of coffee throughout the day. I am not a scientist or a biologist, but I am fairly familiar with the process that coffee goes through your body. I don't want that happening on an island when I'm already on an empty stomach. Like the coffee and cookies reward, like the sweet stuff, I would want no part of that at all.
This is the only thing that's sweet that I would eat. And
Yeah,
I know that's ridiculous. If I was actually on the island, I'd eat anything they put in front of me. Probably I wouldn't
totally.
be able to help myself. But yeah, most of the sweet stuff, it's kind of, I whether the producers believe it or not, I'm pretty confident they're well aware at the 45th season of what they're doing. And like these aren't all actual like rewards. Like this can hurt you as much as it might
Yeah,
help you if you have too much of the wrong thing. I would definitely be bananas only though. If
yeah,
this fruit came to my camp, the first thing I would try to just kind of be the asshole that like grabs 2 bananas first and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I won't have any more," or whatever. Like I
yeah,
didn't mean, I was so excited, guys. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna eat too much, but I did kind of, go for the thing that I feel like has the most benefit to it. As far as, I think someone mentions the potassium and some other things
yeah.
in there. We have our third co-host here with us briefly. What's your
Yep.
lovely cat's name again?
That would be Mozzie. She is now
Ozzy.
under the laptop stand because I've just got a new setup and she likes it because she can go underneath and then just sit in front of me.
Oh, it's
Before
perfect.
she used to sit on the keyboard, which just caused chaos.
Oh, well, welcome, Mozzie. If you have any thoughts and opinions, feel free to share them anytime you like. So Lulu wins, and who got second in this? I
It
forget actually.
was I was Reba
Reba
because
does,
Belo
yes.
got nothing.
Yes, Reba gets second. And then the other part of this is a raid comes with it, which Lulu, as the winner, gets to choose one person to go to one of the other camps and raid one item, which is a loose terminology around one item, which is one of my favorite things. There's not a lot of wiggle room on rules in Survivor, but this is like one of the only things that's wiggle room. And so Kaleb kind of steps up / is nominated by his team to go do the raid. And then we get the quick shots of, the nervous, like both on both beaches. Who's he going to come to? And he chooses to go to Reba and steal the fishing gear, which is why the fishing gear, which is all of the fishing gear, which is like 6 items or whatever. And
Yep,
he doesn't take all of it. He mercifully leaves
a spear.
the spear. Yeah, like, which I was like, isn't that the main thing that
There
you
might have
want?
been two because I think they had the bigger. They might have.
Okay, yeah.
They had the bigger one. I don't know if there was two, but I would expect that if.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the fishing gear is so much. It's fins, it's goggles, it's the snorkel, it's a spear, it's a big net, it's all this stuff. And I'm like, does that counts as one item? But also, if I want your flint, that counts as one item.
I
It's
think
like,
it's based off a reward
okay,
that
yeah, it
they
came as
like.
one thing
Yeah.
originally. Okay, that makes
Now I
sense.
will say what I found really amusing is when they have that like they have just like a one comment from Kendra, and she's like, if they come to my beach, I will lose my shit. And I was like, dude, you went to their beach, hung out for the entire day, told Sean and Sabiyah that you had the opportunity to vote, and voted against somebody. They might steal a fin from you. That is not equal. You could have taken somebody out of this game.
Yeah, which is another reminder that that did all happen and we didn't all see it. And it's for that
I'm
reason that I'm
confused.
convinced that Kendra isn't going to be here for very long. And we will see. But I, I'll just get ahead of myself because I just brought it up though. Actually, not, because I just remembered, if they're switching up the tribes and stuff next week, there's no possible way that Kendra could be on a tribe with no Lulu members.
Right.
Unless if
They
they switch to two
well,
tribes, if they switch to three tribes, she could. You
yeah,
think they're
I
going to do
mean,
three again and
they
reconfigure?
might. I mean, but the thing with when they
They have, oh
mix
yeah, they could
everything
do
up,
three. They could do three of five. Yeah, and
they
keep it
just
up.
have the buffs, right? They don't there's no rhyme or reason. They don't pre-select who ends up. So you could have a completely lopsided team. So it could end up that like
Okay.
the Lulu 3 are all on the same tribe again with like
Yeah,
two other people.
because if Kendra ends up on a tribe with one of them, I would assume it's going to come up. I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
Kendra, I'm sorry, you're not making the merge or winning this, because if you were, they would have had to have shown us that very important thing that took place that you were the star of. But yeah, so he goes to Reba. I guess there's not a right or wrong choice, really. They don't have like a strong relationship with, Kendra is the only one of any of the others
Yeah.
that they have a relationship with, or anyone does, because it was Brandon that had went on the journey and he's no longer there. So the only one from their tribe that had even like interacted with the others isn't there. So both of them have beat you
Yeah.
every immunity. There's literally nothing to go off of other than just kind of randomness. And they don't say at all what their decision was, but I think it was pretty much Reba got the bigger of the fishing sets and got the other food during the rewards. So like, if anyone is winning more than the other, to be as fair as possible, whatever. But he takes the fishing gear, and this is the moment we find out that, I don't know if you picked up on this, Tony, but Kaleb is a salesman. Are
Yes,
you
he
aware of this?
is.
Yeah. Turns out Caleb's a salesman.
And he's
I
really
don't
damn
actually
good at
know
it.
if that's what Caleb's job is, by the way.
I think
We
he I
just
think yeah, I think it's like electronic sales or something like that.
Okay, great. Because yeah, by the end of it, I was like, I think every cast member has told me that Kaleb is a salesman, but I don't actually know if Caleb's job is a salesman or if he's just a real good talker. They've all, dubbed him Caleb's just too much like a salesman type of guy or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, he does come across the way. He's very personable. He's great in an individual setting, great in a group setting. Very social. I'm very nervous because he's kind of my favorite right now.
Yeah.
So pretty nervous that the target is getting quite large on his back during this portion, but
And
he
he's
does.
Canadian.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got it. I'm going to ask you by the end of this, by the way, you do need a new winners pick from you, because we
I
didn't
do.
discuss last week that was your winners pick that went,
Yes.
or no, this episode. What, I'm getting ahead of myself. Time's very strange. So he does have individual conversations with everyone though, which I think is smart of him to do. Like,
Yeah.
let's do the big group thing, and then let me do the individual thing with everyone, and makes sense. And he decides to give this cool advantage to Drew. Now, Mr. Historian, could you please fill me in? I did not pick up on if this was a brand new thing or if this was something that's been brought back from, it's happened before, but it's been a while since we've used this, right?
All kinds of brand new.
Oh, okay.
So really cool. I really like it because I really hated the losing the vote, because your vote is really all you have in the game. And to lose that means you lose any sort of equity you have within your alliance. So to have an advantage, and I had listened to the On Fire podcast before we recorded, and Jeff had actually said, like, when they figured out the beware advantage and the lose a vote, this was the counteract the lose a vote to see how it works. And then there's so many different ways that you can use it. You can either you can use it for yourself. If you're in an alliance, you're trying to make new inroads, you're on a new tribe, and somebody tells you that they don't have their vote, you can be like, well, actually you do. Or you can find a beware advantage, and maybe you wouldn't have taken it before, but you know that you still have your vote even though you wouldn't have. So I really like it. Normally I'm not super huge on the new advantages because there's so many like sub clauses, but I actually really liked this one.
Oh, we're gonna get to sub clauses because we got a few of them coming up here momentarily. Which actually, let's just head to those now. Let's
Sure.
talk Belo and Reba pre-immunity challenge. So Belo, while all this is happening, they are using their fishing gear or attempting to use their fishing gear. The three boys go out on the raft, which did
Again.
they is the raft necessary? Two, you spend a lot. I mean, I know Bruce wants to put everyone to work, but like, do you have a shelter yet? Have we seen a confident shelter from you? And you have a raft that three of you can sit on and float. So like, you've got talents.
Float is generous.
Yeah,
They
I think
were
their legs might have been on the ground because again, they
yeah,
were in like 2 foot deep water most of the time until
yeah.
he got off and swam away from the raft to get to where he could go, 6 feet deep and try to catch something. It was just a funny scene to see the three of them just floating. It was very good camera work. But while they're doing that is when the girls chat, and Kendra, as we referenced earlier, fills them in on, I'm kind of in on Jake now and definitely out on Bruce, which is all of the opening that our pal Tura needs to be like, yes, finally someone is kind of almost saying something negative about Bruce. This is my moment. Like, yeah, Bruce on your nerves, huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe Jake's good and Bruce is bad, huh? What did you think about her finally getting the moment to wiggle in a little bit of this, let loose a little of this anti-Bruce agenda that she's got going?
I like how they're peppering it in. They're being very smart about it because I'm gonna jump around a little bit, but first off, when they do the reward challenge, it was so smart of Bello to bench Bruce and Jake because the challenge wasn't as like upper body physical as some of the other challenges, and they knew that they would then have to use Bruce and Jake in the next challenge, which was likely going to be more physical because it tends to kind of go back and forth. But when Brando and Kelly were sitting out, Kelly just kind of offhand mentioned to Brando, Bruce is really starting to irritate me, yeah? And then like that was it. But it's just like they're sowing those seeds because Kendris was talking to Jake and was like, so it's not you that we like that I have a problem with. Like I kind of have a problem relating to Bruce. And then Kelly's talking to Brando and it's just like, man, Bruce is sort of annoying, right? And they're really sowing the seeds of doubt, but super low key.
Yeah, so it does turn out it has not been just been Katura who has been like, yeah, this is wearing on me. And I think that as a producer prodding her with the right questions and
Yeah.
confessional to get her to say the part of like the rest of the tribes eating it up when maybe that wasn't 100% what actually was happening. They just could match it to a couple quick footage of someone laughing and make it look that way. But yeah, they're slowly letting us know Bruce is maybe not going over well with his entire tribe. And at this point, we now have the girls are still kind of together. Jake's a little bit in on that. Kelly and Brando have a chat again for the second time that we've seen, and second episode in a row of like, we're clearly in the middle here, but now we're not. Now the middle is kind of turning
Murky.
into Bruce versus everyone. So maybe we're not, which is a good thing. But like, me and you got to stay on the same page of like still keeping communication open from the different sides that we're close to. So that's what's going down there. Over on Reba, we get the conclusion of the advantage search. And this time, first Austin fills D and Julie in on the fact that he has the advantage and that they lied
Found it
before.
yeah.
And then kind of fills him in. Lies while filling in on the lie, kind of white lies of when everything happened or whatever. But
80%.
the punchline is the truth of like, we have this thing and that's what we're digging for. Do you want to help us dig?
Yep.
And so this time their strategy is not to have 3 lookouts, which I think actually would be a better strategy than the one babysitter strategy they go with, but it does work. They have one person babysit Jay, Maya, and Sifu while the other 3 dig. And eventually D finds a rope, and big Lost fans here. I definitely had some Lost flashbacks, like,
absolutely,
please let this rope go all the way into the water. Please, please, please. And then make them swim down underwater to find something. This will be amazing. There should be more Lost Survivor crossover parallels.
There really should be.
Too obvious.
That was part of the reason I started watching Lost. I read the synopsis. This is showing how old I am. I read the synopsis in the newspaper in the like teleguide, and it was plane crashes on an island. The survivors are a doctor, an addicted rock star, and a criminal. And I was like, cool. So there's a doctor. Everybody who is injured will be fine. I need to watch this because it sounds dumb. And then I never missed an episode.
Yeah. Well, they had a clear moment here. They could have just really brought in, and they could have even referenced Through the Looking Glass. Ultimately, one of maybe the best episode ever. They could have done it, but it was still kind of fun regardless. They find the rope. They get to the end of it. They eventually find the idol or find the next clue. They got to go break some rocks near the well, and they find the idol. I don't know if they cleaned up the rocks near the well. Austin and Drew seem like the type of guys that once they start hugging and jumping and celebrating, maybe forget, and maybe someone notices, why are all these rocks now just strewn about around? Like, something obviously happened here, but they find it. And we get the idol in the contingency clauses that we referenced earlier. Yeah. The idol is good for 1 tribal council, unless you sacrifice your vote at said tribal council, in which case the idol is now good up until 10 people are left, or no, until everyone is on merge, one beach. So, but it specifically says till everyone is on one beach. Yeah. So it doesn't say the merge, because we have had situations where everyone gets to one beach, but the merge hasn't happened yet or whatever. So that's a interesting stipulation. I don't know if that'll come up, but you do have to read, like you said, really well on these things. And then at that point, if you sacrifice your vote a second time, the idol becomes good until the final 5, which is typically the just traditional idol, so to speak, would be good until that moment. What do you think, anti-contingency Tony, about the contingency idol that is in play? I don't know if that's what it's called, but I'm going with the contingency idol as the name of this idol.
I find it, there's a couple things. I think that the Reba Tribes one is much easier to access than Lulu's, because
I don't know, they had to dig a while and make a mess, and then that rope like caused a mess, and then I don't. They did a lot, but yes,
it was.
You
it
only
was like
think
20...
that because the candle thing, because the candle becomes such a big thing at the end of this episode. But like, if Lulu just had flint, then it's not that hard to light a candle over away from everyone on the beach.
You'd have to go in like the middle of the night, but it also, they said it took like 20 to 25 minutes for that candle to actually melt to the point where she could get the idol out. So that's
at tribal council. Yeah. And that's like in a fire. That's not
that's like a proper inferno.
Yeah. I'm guessing if you could just light the wick on the top of that candle, it takes.
I don't think there was one. I think it was like you have to ditch it in the fire and then get it back out again. I don't know that there was an actual wick on there.
I think that would have been kind of easy in a tribe. I don't think you necessarily know.
My big thing is like, you've been given a hammer, but on the hammer is your clue, like imprinted into the hammer. So you now have a super useful tool that you are not able to use at all at camp. So like, do you then get your machete and shave off the words and then just be like, hey, I found this hammer in the woods?
I think I don't know. You might have to just, I hadn't even thought about the fact that they have a hammer now.
Yeah.
What are you using the hammer for though, ultimately?
You could use the back end to like open coconuts, depending on whether or not they get one of their like toolkits and stuff like that. Yeah. They would potentially get like nails and boards and everything else.
I think you just tell you might be incentivized. Just like, I think I should tell the tribe that I have an idol, and because I want you guys to all have this beautiful hammer. But then if I'm the tribe, like, I might react exactly how I just did, of like, the fuck do we need a hammer for? Can I have the idol? Like, I don't care. Thanks for telling me your information. You shouldn't have done that. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, this is why you're the historian. You're thinking through this stuff. I completely blew past the fact that they were given a usable hammer, and that would be a nice thing to have on an island where you have literally nothing.
And a lot of rope.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other one. That rope would be very handy but they just ditch it back in the woods. Which they didn't seem to throw it that they're like, we're gonna ditch it where no one will find it. And I'm like, you went like 3 feet. Like
this bush.
Someone's gonna find Sifu's gonna find this. All right. Sifu's definitely finding this pile of rope. And
threw it
he
in
might
Sifu's
also not
shack.
ask a question. Yeah. I don't know. He might just jump rope with it or something. Like, oh, I
No.
can use ropes.
The other thing though, Austin put the hammer in his backpack, like in his bag. A hammer is a very heavy item to just all of a sudden have in your bag going back to camp.
Yeah. They're gonna get. I mean, this is gonna come out at some point.
Oh yeah.
We shall see. But yeah, the 4 of them are at least on good terms again. So that's something. And they kind of all are. This is Austin's idol, but it does seem to be pretty open to both Austin and Drew. The two advantages they now have. The idol and the get your vote back seem to be kind of available to the foursome, or is at least how they're putting it out there to the foursome, is that this is for the benefit of all. And that takes us to the immunity challenge. Immunity challenge, big cart. I really love this one. This is very fun and inventive. The cart, you got to fill it up with a bunch of heavy stuff after releasing the keys, which I do want to come back to because that's my favorite part of, or my most impressive performance of this was key related. But then you got to take apart your cart and fit it through the prison bars, more or less, and rebuild it on the other side, which just hats off to the production team to make that cart that can be pretty easily disassembled and put back together. But once put back together in a rush by starved folks will work again. That's a pretty legitimate engineering feat to be you can easily take apart and put this back together and it works really well together, but is that easy to take apart? I was kind of floored by that. So I loved the challenge design overall. How did you feel about it?
I really liked it. It's again a combination of a couple of different things. But I really like those puzzles, to put them together, take them down. I found it funny that the poles are now poles again, because they were using bamboo for the longest time, and then Cody gamed the system where he told Dwight to just put the key in the hole and then just fling it off, and then now it's another pole and it's no longer bamboo.
Except, so this is the thing that was the most impressive to me. Austin is so good at this. He's 2 for 2 in instant, and it's because unlike most of the time when they have to get the key off a ring or whatever in the air, they're usually on the ground reaching up. And so angle wise, they can't get on top of it the way he does when they're are able to climb up. And he is smart enough to go above the key and put pole on top of the other pole where, there's actual, the key and the pole are touching each other, and just slide it off in one smooth movement. And I mean, he doesn't slide, he shoots it off. He flies off of there. So I had a note of just wow, Austin nailed that one. Kendra does really good with it, but compared next to Austin, it's wait, did Kendra suck at that? Or no, she was actually really good at that too, compared to most of the time getting the keys off. So they fly through it. Everyone though gets to the puzzle. Belo has a head start for sure. Belo gets there. I don't know, time wise, we don't know the exact, but maybe a minute or whatever. They had a real head start, but not anything that would determine it by any means. And then Lulu and Reba get there basically at the same time. And we have Kendra calling for Belo. We have J Maya calling for Reba, and we have Emily calling for Lulu. And for the third time at a puzzle, we end up with a complete and utter no contest because Lulu basically stops moving. They basically give up again at some point during this. They fall so behind so quickly, and Emily's kind of not given any directions, and Kaleb and Sabiyah are kind of just picking some pieces up and what do we do with them? Kind of put them back down, and Sean's I don't know what's good. It's just they give up. And as a lot of people, the other thing a lot of people on Twitter pointed out, the music cue, which was a little different, is that the focus went directly to the stars of the show 3 episodes in of we're going to finish out. This is still about Lulu and Lulu only. And so we're not doing triumphant stuff. this, we're gonna, the slowly, the sad music starts coming in, and you realize, oh, Lulu's given up, and Lulu's gonna get 0 pieces of this puzzle put together, and they're gonna lose again. And that's what happens. And were you surprised at not not that they lost again,
Right.
but how they lost again? Because it really is their all 3 times the puzzle has just been like no shot, not
Yeah.
even like not they lost the puzzle, not they only got halfway through, like, oh, that's kind of a big loss. Like, they don't get pieces of puzzles put together. They just look at the puzzle and are like, I guess we lose again. I guess this is going to continue to be depressing. And like, puzzles are a big part of Survivor. They're in almost every one of the challenges. You're going to have to finish a puzzle at some point in this game. And when you add in Brandon's loss in the individual journey puzzle, like, they're 0 for 4 in a
Yeah.
big way on the puzzles.
Yeah. Sabiyah said in her exit press that none of them were confident in puzzles to begin with. It could have been that Hannah might have been the person who was proficient at puzzles, but then she left. So, and it could have been that Brandon was perceived to be the one who was going to be good at puzzles because he said that he was, and then he had the situations where he didn't pull it out. So, one of the things that I did find interesting though is Sean arguably has the shortest reach out of anybody on the tribe, but he was the one that they were sending up to get the keys. You would think that it would be like Kaleb, who has a longer reach, so he wouldn't have to try as hard to balance the pole. And it struck me as really strange that they would have kind of nominated Sean to do that because he is like he has a smaller reach than most of the other people that are there.
Do you think that had anything to do with like either Kaleb himself or the whole tribe, or a mixture of both, like not wanting, like, Kaleb, you have to do everything when it comes to
Yeah.
physical, like the physical portions of every challenge, like you got to do everything. Because if I'm him, I'm definitely not trying to be, not, we've seen that, how that plays out if you
Yep.
become the guy on the team that like the guy or the girl on the team that's like, you're really good at this stuff and you should do all of them. And then it becomes like, well, that gives me a lot bigger profile than I want, even if it helps us like win a bunch of times. Like, can someone else do parts of
Do
it?
it.
So I could see, who knows if a conversation like that was had, but I could see if they're like, so Kaleb, you're gonna do this part. And he's like, are you, like, it's just getting the key off to someone else. Like, I'm a little tired. I don't know if like I did remember the challenge where we won the fruit where I did all of it, like literally all of it. So I could see that being a
Yeah.
part of it. But
I did like the music choice though. Like I really did. And I pointed out to Sarah when we were watching it because she had mentioned early in the episode it's really hard as a fan to not be absolutely rooting for Lulu because they're the ones that we actually know at this point in the game. So it was very much that the story was being told from our narrators, which have been Lulu this whole time. So you get that triumphant build up until the point that the second team wins, and then it immediately shifts. And it's such a stark contrast between everybody cheering around them with the music and just like the defeat. And it was such an interesting choice, and I really liked it because so often they'll just focus on the people who won and then call it a day.
yeah, it definitely, and it works perfectly whether they always planned for it to be at this moment after this tribal that they do the tribe swap or not, or if it was either added in or moved up because of the fact that one tribe lost to 3. It works really well that they effectively made the first 3 episodes of the season, is like you said, it's from Lulu's point of view. It's kind of like a Lulu documentary,
Yeah.
like a sports doc almost. It's like, this is Survivor Lulu edition. They are playing against other people, but like, this show is about this tribe for 3 episodes, and the arc is going to be completed, and then we're going to go into, basically restart the season with the new tribes, and like, now everyone's a part of it, and it's a Survivor season again, and it's not Survivor Lulu.
Yeah.
Lulu
Well,
disaster, whatever you want to title these 3 episodes for them.
I mean, normally, like I generally will buy like one buff per season, and it's normally the merge buff because by then, like it seems that all of the people that I really like then all end up on one tribe. But I won't lie, like I bought a Lulu buff like 2 days ago, and it's very rare that I will buy a buff before merge because there's people that I like on every tribe. But I feel like so incredibly connected to Lulu as a tribe and as players because they've they're all gamers and they're all really there to play and they're all playing at a higher level than you would expect for like vote 3 of Survivor, and that's because they've continually had to go. So I am definitely Lulu strong on this one.
Yep. I'm with you. I did not also buy a buff, but yeah, I'm with you there. They would be the one to buy. And then we do get the end of the Lulu story for the rest of the episode. They go back to camp after Jeff is kind of rude to them about them losing again. I will say Jeff gets a little spicy in this episode, which I do appreciate. And again, continuation of last week when I thought that Jeff maybe had enough of Lulu, potentially in him in the moment thinking maybe was hurting his season. In fact, was making it out to be an incredible start to a season. But we get to Lulu. It's day 7 now. You know, they've just lost and they've got 4 of them. And we get the first conversation is between Sabiyah and Kaleb. We've previously seen, we skipped over this part, but you know, Sabiyah, while Kaleb was on the raid, had approached Sean and Emily about, you know, her and Sean had kind of solidified the actual 2 duo of the tribe, and that they wanted to target Kaleb. They brought Emily in, they told her about the advantage, the whole thing. So Sabiyah is thinking Kaleb is thinking, how am I going to defend? Should I defend Emily? Should we go for someone else?
Yeah.
And they have a conversation that kicks off what turns into just incredibly good gameplay by everyone, and incredible from the producer's perspective and the fans' perspective, the perfect circumstances where it just all works together to make a really effective and interesting and like tense tribal eventually, because Sabiyah and Kaleb are like, under the guise that they're working together in the moment. One of them is not, the other one is unsure if he's going to or not, but they're still under the guise like, we have to keep up that we were kind of working together before. And so she says, it's Emily, you know, they both are like, it's got to be Emily. So what are we going to do? Okay, Kaleb, you tell her my name and I'll tell her your name, and that'll be good, which is perfect from Sabiyah's standpoint because she actually wants him. So she's found her easy way. She handles it perfectly. It's very casual of like, yeah, we're going to get Emily, but like, so you're going to have to say my name. I'm going to have to say your name to get her, you know, to not do Emily things today or whatever.
It's 3D chess.
Yeah. And from there on, every conversation plays out, and it's just like so perfectly set up that like everyone gets to either tell their truths or lies in a manner similar to that first conversation, where it's like they all do a great job of it. It's all really effective, but it also like each layer of it perfectly covers up or matches with the other one to make it very effective. I loved this whole scenario. Were you feeling similar?
Yeah, it's honestly like this is probably one of my favorite episodes of Survivor in recent memory because of this like back third and how well laid out it was, and how like it's clear that the 4 people that are at Lulu are absolutely here to play. They know the game, they know how to maneuver, and even though we don't see a whole lot of it, I would say that Emily is the prime example of somebody who has figured out how to adapt and maneuver in a game and work with different people and different personalities differently, more so than anybody else. Even, yeah, I would say probably more so than anyone else that I've seen like lately, because she has done a complete 180, and she's it's very clearly genuine as well. It's not like she's putting on an act. It's completely genuine.
Yeah. And she's put in the pivotal spot,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, back to like how perfectly laid out it is. It's her getting all the information from Sean and Sabiyah. And as we referenced earlier, the thing at the beginning of the episode comes back because she kind of has that. She says, I think in confessional, she references, Sabiyah, I know everything now, but I felt a little uneasy after I thought we were good. And I realized there was still something gone. So even though she's come back with that, like, Kaleb was the one that immediately did this. So she picks Kaleb basically over Sabiyah in the moment that Sabiyah and Sean are deciding the ultimate plan to vote Kaleb. And she runs to Kaleb and immediately is like, I have to tell him. And as serious as she could possibly be, and, you know, from the outside, it's, you know, we know she's being serious. So I'm like, dude, you could tell when someone's being honest and like really assertive about like, this is happening and we have to stop it. But she tells him, those two are writing your name down 100%. You're going home unless you vote for Sabiyah with me. She doesn't have a vote. Like, we can win this 2-1. And it's just so perfectly laid out that in his head, and as he says in confessional, is like, I think she's trying to defend me, but also Sabiyah and Sean are supposed to say my name based on the other plan. So I'm really fucking confused. She's either just falling for the plan that I am a part of, and they're really good actors, or she's trying to save my life. And my decision decides whether I go home or, and look like a fool, or I kind of look like a master. And me and Emily have solidified we're like this new little power duo that we got here. And yeah, it's unbelievable. And then
it was my quote of the night, easily.
Yeah,
Endless.
for sure.
Yeah.
And to add to it, when they go to tribal, things get even weirder because the candle covered idol that we just assume, or I don't know, I was still assuming up until the moment where Sabiyah, right before they go to tribal, tells them like, when we get to tribal, I'm just throwing this thing in the fire and like gonna see what they say about it. And in my head, I'm like, I think they're going to tell you that that's not how you're allowed to do it. I think they're going to say that you have to, too bad you don't have Flint. Like, that's
you have to do it at camp.
Yeah, that's the risk you took. But it doesn't. They get there and she's like, let me toss this in the fire, Jeff. She starts getting out. They do like one question at a time. And between each question, she's like, I got to go tend to my fire. She brought her the machete, the tools, the whole thing. It's this big production. And I was really interested in just like looking at Jeff's face every time they pan to him, of like, because he's, he's running this show. And he's making that decision in the moment. I would assume
he talked about it.
Did he say on the pod, like, if they had discussed if this was allowed or not, or if he was
not even, he made a game time decision. He said like,
allow it.
They had not like they had, when they workshopped this whole idol, they had not considered that somebody was going to, for one, be this deep in the game that they would find the idol, but also not have Flint. And they also never anticipated anybody bringing it to tribal, because then you're putting it on Front Street for everybody. So the ingenuity that Sabiyah displayed of having all the tools and just coming in and just flat out being like, this is the only fire in my life right now, Jeff, is here at tribal. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to allow it. And I agree. That is the right decision. Because the other thing is, as you had mentioned, you want to pay super close attention to what is on the parchment. The parchment just says melt the wax to like release the idol or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't say must be done at your camp.
Yeah. I'm definitely glad that he allowed it, because it makes for what, again, I'm one of those people that I don't find tribal council interesting usually. Or most of them don't tend to be interesting to me outside of the actual vote itself, because they usually do a pretty good job of trying not to say anything, which is the objective most of the time. So like, I get it. But it was a fascinating tribal council because of that. And I'm always just fascinated when we get the moments of like Jeff being being in charge of this thing in a way that it is literally, he gets to make decisions on the fly when something, even as well prepared and well organized as they are, when something gets thrown off, there's some creativity and he gets to actually decide in the moment. Like, that's so cool that he gets to decide in the moment. I wish that TJ Lavin had those powers. That'd be hilarious.
I know, right?
TJ, like, was allowed to be like, you know what? We're not going to do the puzzle. This is just going to be a hall brawl. You guys good with that? Okay, good. We're just going to, they made me say hall brawl. So that's what we're going to do. I wish he had that kind of power. Anyways, that's a different show. So she does get her vote back. They make it last long enough. Did Jeff on his pod say at all, like, how, like, you referenced earlier how long it took to melt the wax, but
she had mentioned it in like exit press. I think it was with Dalton Ross, that it took between 20 and 25 minutes to melt the wax.
Yeah.
For her to be able to
I wonder if Jeff had any instinct of like, he had to have been running through so many thoughts in his head. And I wonder if one of them was, would it be hilarious television or really mean of me if I said that's allowed, but like, I told them they had to vote, and like, it's not melted yet. You don't have it's time to vote. I'm sorry, we can't wait any longer. Because he probably thought through every scenario possible in that moment. and that would have been the funniest outcome. It would
That would
have
have been
sucked for
amazing, but
Sabiyah, but
also
it would have been
terrible.
hilarious of like,
Yeah.
oh, well, Sabiyah, it's about that time, and I don't think we made it there. So, hopefully you don't lose this vote and you can pick it up on your way out. But she gets her vote, and which then adds the final layer of brilliance and just like pure luck of, the producer
They
room again high-fiving.
they must have been like over the moon to
It's so
have
perfect.
somebody have the idol and open it for the very first time in the voting booth.
With the pen in hand.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And she's in a very difficult position, which is the main question I want to ask you, Tony. If you're Sabiyah, obviously in retrospect, yes, she should have voted. We're aware of that because
Yeah.
she goes home. But if you're her in that position, do you feel confident enough, and do you care what your confidence level is? Do you vote, or do you
I
keep the idol?
I think you have to I think you have to hold on to your vote for another week and like at least make it so that it's when everybody's on the same beach, because you've worked for the last week, or I guess the last like 5 days or something like that, to try to find a way to get this idol. You finally get it. You're up there. You have your vote. But with your vote, your idol then dies as you leave tribal council. So you put on this whole show. Everybody now thinks you have an idol, and you're just supposed to be able to convincingly tell them that the idol
You
died
would you would
because
get to keep the piece of paper though,
you
right?
would.
Yeah,
But
you just show
like,
them the paper and be like, I don't
it's
even have an idol, guys. We went through all of that, and I don't have
and
an
I got
idol.
nothing.
You're Yeah.
I think she was confident enough in the game that she had played up to that point, and I don't fault her for it, because she seemed to be like in very good control of it. The only thing that she didn't count on was the fact that Kaleb and Emily had a relationship outside of the four of them. So
Yeah. I don't know. It's impossible to know what I actually think, to remove the hindsight of she goes home,
yeah,
because we saw that. But it just seems like after you had to put on that production and everything, and if the outcome is we vote out Emily and like I'm super
yeah,
tight with these other two, then like I don't know. I'm going the safe route in that instance. Although I guess that's probably really the argument for going the risky route, is like I feel super
right.
good about these three people that would be left and everything. But it does ultimately bite her in the butt
It
because she gets
does.
voted out. And if she would have voted, it would have been 2-2. And
They would have
I
gone
would
to
have
rocks.
been. Does it go immediately? Is there a
No,
revote, or is it
it's a revote. So it's a revote, and then Kaleb and Sabiyah wouldn't vote, and Emily and Sean would vote, and
And I
then
wonder if they would. That's where I wonder if they would have. They probably both stick to their guns at that point, because Emily is
you
already
have to.
like, it's not like Emily can be like, okay, my bad. I do want to work with you, Sabiyah and Sean,
Yeah,
because you repaired things, but I still chose Kaleb. Like you probably do, but then is rocks between everyone, or then just Emily and Sean?
it is. Oh, fuck, I forget.
Isn't it the not the people
I
that
want to
didn't get the
say
votes?
they become safe.
Yeah, Sabiyah and Kaleb do.
Sabiyah and Kaleb become safe,
Yeah, so Emily and
and then
Sean,
which is why
two.
Emily would just be like, "Look, Sean, I'm willing to go to rocks for this. Are you willing to go to rocks for Sabiyah? Because
I
that's
don't
your
think
option."
either. I don't think either of them are going to be willing to go to rocks. But
She's
then
a
it's like if they both approach it in that respect, then it's like, well, okay, but then which way is the compromise? If we both are
yeah.
looking for a compromise here, um, yeah, that would have been interesting, because I'm not going to, I don't. It's too early in the game to put an alliance of 5 days over a 50-50 rock drawing. Like I'm
Yeah.
not doing that. There is no chance in hell. And yeah, if I'm Sean or Emily, and that would have happened, if the other one shows the slightest indication that they're okay going to rocks, I'm folding right then and there. And I'm be like, you know what, Kaleb or Sabiyah, I'm sorry, dude, but 50-50 shot does not sound ideal. You're going home. Like, too bad. That's my bad, or I don't know, or at least play it off. Like if you're Sean, be like, hey, dude, like I thought I was supposed to vote. I don't know. I got confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of Sabiyah. I was confused. Everyone, I thought we were supposed to say your name, and then it turned into I thought that was real. I didn't know what to believe. I'm sorry, and just move on. But
I didn't get the updated script. I forgot. Sorry.
yeah,
absolutely meant to vote for Sabiyah.
Just making shit up on the fly. We got idols and fires at tribal council. It was just a weird night. Okay. Can we move past this? Kaleb does move past it though. This is the last note before we get to awards. I did pick up on, they show them walking out of tribal council, and Kaleb does the Michael Jordan tongue out, and
Yeah,
then
it
is like very like overjoyous about like, fuck yeah, like not only did I
yeah,
not go home, but like I picked the right side. We got her out, like first big move of the season. I was on the winning side. And I did, after the whole episode that we've been told, salesman, everyone kind of the target has been painted on Kaleb, to have them show that little moment of like, he's really feeling good about this. I was happy for him because I love him and adore him thus far. But I was like, no one can see you. You're at the front of the line. It's okay. It's just for the cameras, kind of. But hopefully, when you get back to the tribe or like the next tribe, like you're not too, feeling yourself too much because of this, because it is still only the third person voted out of the game. This isn't like you just made the move that's going to win you the game or anything. That's, if that happens, it happens much later in it. So something to keep an eye on for sure. But that's tribal in the whole episode. So let's go ahead and recap some things by handing out some hardware. All right, to the awards. I did not have a good quote of the episode this one. I believe the first words spoken were the episode title. I forgot to write it down, but I saw the episode title as I turned it on YouTube, and then it was like literally the first word. I forget, what did you write it down, what it was?
I didn't, but it was like, here we are again, or something like that.
Like,
it was something very generic.
Yeah, and it was quite literally the first sentence spoken on the show, which was an interesting choice, to say the least. Seems like maybe someone got a little lazy. It was like, oh shit, I forgot to do my job and name the episode. Like, did anyone say anything interesting? I'm gonna have to rewatch it. Boom. Oh, that's good enough. That's good enough. Let's just go with that. Yeah, sure. But yeah, do you have any nominees for a quote? Okay, let's hear them.
One is from Drew, and it was just amazing when he was explaining the plan of, if he saw somebody, he would start talking about food, and he would be like, I love tacos. And then Austin would run out and be like, oh, I also like tacos. And that would be our alibi. And it's like, that is a terrible alibi, but it's amazing at the same time.
Yeah, again, Drew couldn't have come off more opposite one episode to the next, of me being like, this guy is the new mastermind of Survivor, to like, I still love and enjoy this man so much, but I have a little less confidence in his abilities to navigate the social structure of this game. What was the other one you had?
The other one is, like, for me, the winner, from Emily. This isn't, Emily trying to save her ass. This is Emily trying to save your ass.
That was very good. And that's the first thing she says to Kaleb when she reveals that he's about to get voted out. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too, as much as I want to give it to my guy Drew. But we'll give it to Emily, who I think has been on pace to be the confessional queen of the season. In the early going here. Favorite moment from the episode? Any nominees here?
Either the raid, because it was just a masterclass on getting information without really giving much information. Emily's conversation with Kaleb, because it was so high stakes, but there were so many layers to it that you didn't know if Kaleb was going to get enough information to believe that the fake plan was the real plan. And then just tribal in general.
Yeah, those are all quality. And I'm reminded of one thing we forgot to talk about earlier that I meant to ask you about during the raid. One moment that deserves at least a nomination here: Sifu's air guitar. When we have the I will say awkward again, awkward moment where Sifu says all of the things he does. That doesn't include the gym that he owns, that I thought is like the Chiron, like what it says that he does. He names all of his passions and hobbies and things. And one of them is music related. And then J Maya says, I'm a professional singer. Like, that's my legitimate career. That's what I do. Like, check out my Spotify. I got millions and millions of streams and stuff. And Sifu's like, we should like jam real quick, like we should show him or whatever. And J Maya's like, should we like okay, like what are we gonna do? And then Sifu launches into an incredible heavy metal air guitar session.
Yeah.
How would you grade his air guitar 1 to 12?
I mean, air guitar, probably about like an 8 or a 9. Understanding of the situation and how complementary his musical talents were to J Maya's, probably about a 2. It was a very mixed bag of of heavy metal air guitar versus what J Maya sings normally.
And his I give credit to J Maya for being a team player that when
Oh yeah.
Sifu calls like and backup vocal and she's like, okay. And then he's like, okay, great, I'll keep going. It's just like, yeah, that you were able to utter a word in that moment was great. I'm with you.
So
Yeah,
good.
that I had that moment down. I had Drew and Austin's lies to just was so funny to me. Very small one, but Sean had the best catch during the reward challenge, the
Yes.
like diving backwards
I
catch.
wrote
I
that
was
down.
really proud of my guy on that one. And yeah, but then you know, I usually like to try to find one actual like the small moment within the big one, but the entire idol thing at tribal council was
Yeah.
fascinating again, and that
Oh,
would be
totally.
my ultimate vote for my winner. Which one's your winner?
I will agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was so
I
good.
don't know
And
that we're ever going to see that
no,
particular thing happen again.
no.
Best gameplay of the episode. Any nominees for the best gameplay? I would say, I mean, definitely Kaleb's read of like on in that hard place of like, is she just falling for the plan or is she saving my ass? And him correctly reading that, it'd definitely be up there for me. I do think even though she went home again, Sabiyah's
Oh yeah.
initial conversations to dupe Kaleb were handled incredibly well, and she just missed. It basically came down to both that one moment where she had not fully gotten Emily's trust back and still had that waffle, but also it seemed like Sean and Sabiyah had not picked up on how much Kaleb had been talking to and like trying to
Yeah.
be the initiator of Emily needs to be a part of this tribe, not just like the lost cause that we don't like. And it seems like they hadn't quite picked up on that, which is why they weren't maybe expecting Emily to immediately make the decision and run to Kaleb and say,
Here's the deal.
I'm basically picking your team and this is a 2-on-2 thing.
Yeah.
But so yeah, those would be actually those would probably be my nominees for best and worst gameplay. Actually, if we do two of them at once here, is Sabiyah's initial lie, not handling it well. But on the best gameplay side, Kaleb's accurate read of the situation.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, look, I lost my winner pick this week, but I can't be mad about it because it was such high level gameplay, and it is in no way a reflection of Sabaya's ability to play Survivor. I think that she is a prime candidate for coming back on like a second chances season or something like that, and I think that she will dominate. Like, she may not have won, but she had the potential to. And I think that there are so many people in the game right now that have the potential to win if they could only get there, which obviously is the point of the game. But like, I'm not mad about her exit. Like, it would be hard, other than not winning the million, it would be hard to feel bad about how great of a game she played. Um, Other than just like the misread on Kaleb and Emily, I would say for like best moment with is slightly subconscious was Kaleb talking to Drew and him saying, "So did like you went on the journey? Did you lose your vote?" And Drew just like spilling his guts, which normally is a bad thing about advantages and stuff like that. But it ended up working because Kaleb then was like, "I trust you. I'm giving this to you." And then he thought he was making an additional alliance of one, but he really just got four people on his side in one move without leveraging anything of his own. So that has to be like, despite the fact that he doesn't realize it, that has to be like the best moment of the episode for me.
And he didn't tell Lulu that he got to give them that, right? At least
It
not that
wasn't
we saw.
shown.
Yeah,
No,
if they did, it wasn't shown. Okay, and then your MVP of the episode.
it's going to be Kaleb and Emily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honorable mention Sabiyah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sabiyah played well for ending up being the third exit, certainly. But yeah, I've got to give it to Kaleb was the star of the
Yeah.
episode for sure. Salesman Kaleb gets gets the trophy. I forget who we've given it to the last couple of weeks. I need to keep better track and write these down to see. No one's won twice yet, but
Um,
I
I
gave it to
think I
Drew last week and maybe
right.
Emily the first week. So yeah. I forget who you gave it to.
I gave Emily and Caleb last week. I gave Emily the win and
Back
then
to back.
honorable mention to Caleb.
Oh, nice. So just reversed it. All right. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Kaleb, the first unanimous episode MVP. We're on the same page at last.
There you go.
And finally, then, let's do some quick power rankings and a couple prediction questions that I have for you. Have your power rankings changed? I know that at least one spot has to have changed because you previously had Sabiyah there at the top. What do you got for your top 5 now, best positioned in the game as it currently stands?
I've got Caleb, Kelly, D, Austin, Emily.
Ooh, okay. We're still 4 for 5. I thought we
Very
might
nice.
find a way. We've been 4 for 5 each week. And I thought because the one we didn't have in line was Sabiyah, that we might get there this time, but you just don't have the belief that I have in my guy Drew. So you don't have Drew
He's
in there.
sixth. He is
Okay,
sixth.
okay.
I know that I only have to write 5 power rankings, but just the proof, he is my
Oh my
sixth
god.
power
Okay,
ranking.
he is. Good on you. I have D in the driver's seat right now.
Yeah.
I feel very good about her. I've got D, Austin, Kaleb, Kelly, Drew. And I know that Kaleb is not going to win this because he's already too big of a target. So he probably shouldn't be in there. But we'll see. I'm hopeful that I'm wrong about that and right about the fact that he deserves to be near the top. But I really feel confident in, I would say D on Reba is the one I'm the most confident in right now, and Kelly is the one I'm most confident in on Belo. And then weirdly, I honestly maybe should put Emily in over Kaleb right now from a Lulu member that I feel confident in. It is very interesting the edgic, the editing logic algorithms that are out there. The Survivor one, the account does an incredible job and is usually like really good. And I will often try to not look at it after a certain point of number of episodes because I kind of don't want to know, and then I'll go look back at it at the end of the season. But it is really hilarious because it has Emily right now as like an 80% chance of winning because it's so based on screen time and like finding out things, but it's just been so much about Lulu and Emily that I'm like, of course it would currently be like, well, I don't know, they haven't showed anyone else except this woman and everything she's interacted with their tribe. So I don't think Emily has an 80% chance to win right now. I think it's, a little skewed, but I do think that it's wild to say 2 episodes later, but after the first episode to now, I'm suddenly like, I think Emily could certainly go far and or even win this game. Who knows? She's back in it. Certainly. She's no longer
she could be somebody. She could be somebody that they think taking the final tribal is a good idea. But I think that she will be able to talk circles around them.
Yeah, she would handle final tribal incredibly well. I'm confident in that. Okay. Couple questions for you going to next week. Normally I'd ask which tribe you want to see at tribal council because I think that's always interesting to think about, but there's going to be new tribes next week. So we can't ask that one of my normal questions. So I'll ask you this instead, because we have new tribes. Are there any pairs of people, 2 individuals that you are dying to see end up on the same team or think would cause comedy or entertainment in some way that you're just hoping get matched up on a team?
I mean, I am probably in the vast majority of Survivor viewers that want to see Emily and Bruce on the same team.
Because that is definitely the obvious one because the initial interaction. I had almost forgotten about that. There's so much that's happened with Emily that I forgot that the first thing she did on the whole show was call out Bruce for no reason.
And I would like to see Drew and Kaleb plus one more of the Reba 4. I don't know necessarily which one, but I'm just interested to see how that dynamic plays out, having given the goodwill advantage so recently.
Yeah, that would be good. So right now, Austin has an idol, and that's the only one in play, right? Okay, so that doesn't, they can't be like all the advantages end up in one spot because there's really only one person with an advantage. And then Drew has the goodwill on top.
And safety without power. or
Yeah.
knowledge without power.
I'm probably
Knowledge without
most
power.
interested in I really want to see that foursome, that Reba foursome of D, Julie, Drew, and Austin split one male, one female, whether it's
Yeah.
Austin and D or Austin and Julie, but like those split into two and see what happens with there already being a little bit of a lack of trust and it kind of being two twosomes that have agreed to work together as a
Yep.
foursome. If they're split up, if who sticks with who, and in particular, D and Drew specifically, I feel like would be the two that would be like, you know what? It was pretty circumstantial that we were kind of working together before, and you were the one I didn't trust in the group, or
Yeah.
you were the one I didn't actually interact with. So I would like to see that. And then, yeah, Emily and Bruce is definitely the obvious, the right call. We gotta get that. Final question then. Your winner's pick is gone.
Yep.
That was pretty quick. As it's happened to me, it happens to the best of us. So I'll give you a chance. It's not a redo, but we will update who is your new winner's pick going forward now that Sabiyah is gone. Who's your money on? If I told you had to buy back in and throw some new money down, who are you taking at this point?
I won't go with Kelly because that was my second choice, and it's also your choice, and
Yeah,
I
you
need
can't
to
pick
keep
Kelly.
things
She's off the
interesting.
board.
Um, I am Caleb's burning too bright right now, and I need him to go a couple more weeks before I would feel confident putting him as my winner pick. Um, and like I said before, Emily, I feel like people might want to take her to the end because they feel that there's animosity amongst the tribe when really there's not. But I'm gonna go D.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, I mean she's at the top of my power rankings for a reason. So, I do think we don't have to mention them, but I do unless they're pulling another Erica situation here, I think there are a couple people that we can rule out because there are a couple people that we kind of haven't interacted with almost at all. Though they
Yeah,
have had interesting, I will just name one. J Maya, for instance, we have gotten like nothing of, but they have been allowing the cast members themselves to put out the bonus content, which I think is an
interesting.
interesting strategy. I don't know if you saw this, but J Maya got to she was the one, I think, the first one to tweet out like
Yeah,
the
I
bonus scene of her leading them through was it Hindu chant?
I believe so. I heard it. I heard that was the secret scene, but I didn't get a chance to watch it, and I remembered as we logged on to Zoom.
Yeah. I apologize if I'm getting the religion wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it was a Hindu chant.
I
But yeah,
believe so.
she speaks about her religion to the whole group and then leads them through a chant on the beach together. It's a very wonderful moment. And yeah, it was maybe someone else put it out first and then she also is because
Right.
it's the star of the scene is allowed to, but I first saw it and came across it and everyone that I saw talking about it was retweeting her tweet of the video and it wasn't like a link to a YouTube or anything. It was like, I have this video of this secret scene. Here you go. And I have a lot of thoughts for producers of this and all of the shows that they could be doing things way differently and way better and should have robust YouTube channels with things like this.
Yes.
Because I did see a couple people have seen that in the secret scene each episode and been like, screw it, 2-hour episodes. Like there's so much good stuff here. Like go ahead. I'm like, no. 90 minutes. But like, yeah, if you had a great Survivor YouTube
Yeah.
channel where it was like, here's the 3 scenes that didn't make the 90-minute cut this episode. Here's
Totally.
Kendra going to the other tribe and casting a vote and everything else. Like, I would definitely watch that and you would have a few million subscribers and you would make
Yeah.
some money off of your YouTube channel to add to, the money that you need. Maybe not Survivor as much as other shows, but like the challenge for sure is the one that I'm like, you guys could make a lot of money that you're not making anymore because you're on a dead TV network. You could make money off of like a robust YouTube channel if you did some things different. Anyways, that's for a different podcast. And this podcast is coming to a conclusion. Any final thoughts heading into episode 4? Any farewells to Survivor : Lulu's demise? The season's over. We start anew next week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for a tribe swap. I like tribe swaps because I like the change in dynamic and I like that people have to kind of rework. My people have shot me down on this, but my like ideal season would be every after every tribal when they go back to the challenge, they swap. So that you constantly have to be in a different group. So you can't just completely burn bridges. You have to find a way to play with everybody to an extent, because you never know when that person is going to be what keeps you in the game versus takes you out of the game.
I mean, at that point, would you do that, or would you just have, you just all are on the same beach at all times, but like you could still get to randomly draw teams and only half of you are up for tribal, but like at that
Survivor
point,
free agents.
yeah, exactly. Because like I don't know, in my head I was just like, man, you must have been like the only person that really liked Spies, Lies, and Allies, and like the
No.
recent challenge formats of like you can switch partners at any given point, any given time. You get a new partner, you get a new partner the whole time. Every episode would be a lot, but I do like, and especially when they're able to time it this perfectly, having the one big switch up for the dynamic change. Although I will say my prediction would have been right otherwise. We were headed for another Lulu
2-2.
loss in a
Yeah.
2-person, and you guys can just go on a different team now.
Yeah.
So they thwarted that from happening, as we did discuss they would probably do, and they have done so. So that's episode 3 of Survivor 45. I think this was yet another, I don't know how long this will ultimately be, but we did it again, Tony. Another hour and a half to hour and 45-minute recap of a 90-minute television show. Yes, our podcasts are longer than the show. Love it. And
Excellent.
It's one day it'll be shorter, but if the episodes are this good, we like talking about it too much. So thanks to everyone who stuck around however long this podcast is right now and listen to the whole thing. As always, hit the follow, hit subscribe, go follow and subscribe to Challenge Fandom. If you forget what we've got coming up, go back to the beginning of this very long podcast where we share everything that is coming up. The links are in the show notes below. So follow, subscribe. We'll be back next week, sometime after Wednesday, between Wednesday and the following Wednesday. We will be back with episode 4 coverage. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you later.